people, thanks for joining me. I'm Scotty D, and this is Lucille. And she became victim of a domestic assault, and the neck broke off. And what happened was it got swung like a baseball bat by the neck over onto a coffee table, and it hit directly onto this pickup. And this pickup was smashed in there so bad, I had to reach in there and bend this little leg up a little bit to just to get it out. And I think the first thing I should probably do is test the electronics to see if it's still working or if I'm going to have to replace that. These are like Seymour Duncan Fat Cats and P90s. That must have been an upgrade or downgrade, I don't know. Yeah, I guess an upgrade, because the Epiphone pickups, I don't know if they're made in China or US, but Seymour Duncan's good. And then we'll glue that neck back together and do a little finish touch-up. Well, Lucille is stereo. But anyways, I hooked up this output jack to the DC resistance meter, and I'm getting a reading 8 K ohms on the bridge, 4 ohms combined between the neck and the bridge, 7.7 K ohms. Now this bridge pickup, if I touch it, it goes in and out. Right now it's in, so we're lucky. I'm going to find some new pickup rings. They were both broken, and the 2 screws that were holding this one in, the pickup adjustment screws, were bent. So I'm going to get some new ones and start by securing these 2 things, and then we'll put a little glue in here and clamp it up. Do a real light sanding on both sides, and I also want to color. I want to add a little color, a little black around the joint before I glue it, just to hide the glue line a little better. A little bit of glue built up here, but for the most part, it's a real thin glue line. Nothing to worry about all that much, I don't think. Let's see if they pair up nicely still. Looks like they will. I'll take that sharp corner off a little bit. This is that black brush tip marker. I'm just gonna try to disguise this maple, this light colored wood, from telegraphing through the glue line. Maybe this will help, but maybe it doesn't matter. I just thought it would be better to do it now than see a white line later. Because the hot hide glue I'm going to use is kind of transparent. Especially right here, there's some little maple revealing itself right around this edge. Alright. Here's a little dry run before I glue it. And when I turned it over and looked at it, it looked pretty good. And it gave me an idea that once this glue cures, I'll drill a big hole right through here, through the 2 parts, and I'll run a dowel through it, and then I'll re-drill for the strap button hole goes right here anyways. So that's a real fortunate break, I think. All in all, kind of got lucky that it broke this way. Warming up the 2 parts with the hair dryer. That'll extend the open time for the glue, so I don't have to rush. Got the glue here. my call. The glue is hot. As I tighten these, kind of see that squeezing out here and here. And that's about it. Come in and run that dowel. I can start wiping this up with some hot water and paper towels. Pretty clean. We'll just leave it in the rack overnight to chill with some of these other bad boys. One more thing to glue right here. I'm gonna check the neck for relief. Get it as straight as I can get it with the truss rod. Maybe just loosen it up. And stick some more glue in there, clamp it up. I got these that can hold it there temporarily while I check the relief. So the relief is a pretty severe back bow, so I'm going to loosen that truss rod up. That should straighten the neck out. It's a two-way truss rod, which is great for this. Under this circumstance, the two-way truss rod is a good thing. So we'll get some hot hide glue in there, and then I'll wrap it with this band. I'll hold the band on each end with one of these big clamps. And I just put this here just in case the glue drips, so it won't drip on my workstation. Here's the glue pot again. Here's a 3/1000 feeler gauge. Here's a little cup. I can transport the glue right from this hot pot into that crack. Also got a few wedges. I'm going to wedge this in. Maybe I need a longer wedge. Okay, the the truss rod threads and stuff are exposed up to about here, so I'm gonna go up to here, right there, and put the glue in with my feeler gauge. Actually, probably can get away with using a brush. But I'll use this feeler gauge up here where it's tight. I'll go grab a small brush for this more exposed area. Had to break away a little lacquer too, or a little bit of that poly. Hear it crackling. Get a brush over here. Give it a quick wipe with a wet paper towel. See, glue did make a little bit of a mess. Put one clamp here and one clamp here just to hold it for a second. And I'll get my rubber band going. The workstation allows me to work with the neck suspended somewhat, which is very nice. And no fear of it falling over, because it's got the Velcro straps. Now on a lacquer guitar, this is poly, but on a lacquer guitar you could concern yourself with this rubber leaving marks and melting into the lacquer. I mean, depending on what kind of glue you used. But this hide glue is pretty much the easiest to clean up. So I would like it. Get a wet, nice hot water here to wipe this up. I've got some more of these spring clamps right over here, but just two of them work pretty good. Easy peasy. what I was saying before about that truss rod. You can see it's in the neutral position right now, but I can adjust it this way to put a bow in there, or this way to go a back bow. And it's fully covered up. Like on the outside, it doesn't matter if any glue kind of hits it around the top or whatever. It's just, it works from the inside. That fastener, such a great design. Tighten, neutral, loosen. Very cool. This is a gripper wrench. Next, what I'm going to do is drill a decent sized hole through the strap buttonhole to make a bridge between the two parts of the crack and kind of seam that heel together with a 1/4 inch red oak dowel. I'll start off with a small bit and work my way up to 1/4 inch. I'm going to taper the edges of the hole so it doesn't grab the corner of the lacquer or the polyester finish and make it more damage than I already did. Now I'm going to create a little taper to the dowel before I put it in. At first I thought I would drill a 1/4 inch hole to put a 1/4 inch dowel into, and I would just take a little bit of material off the dowel with some sandpaper chucked up into the drill. But that was a little too tight squeeze, so I ended up making a couple flutes along the length of the dowel with this graver tool. But the Titebond glue and 1/4 inch hole was a little too snug, so I pulled the dowel back out and ended up using a 2-part epoxy and a little bit larger hole. I used the West System 655. Let it sit overnight, and then I flush cut it with this here saw. Red oak. Strong stuff. Okay, so I ran the dowel and trimmed that off. I just wanted to tune it up and test everything out, you know, make sure it was really playable, that none of the frets were damaged, that the glue joint is going to hold. I was hesitant to do it before putting the dowel in. I mean, the dowel is kind of some added insurance for me, but I've got a lot of finish repair work to do. Cracks down both sides of the fretboard and this giant crack around the, you know. So before I started any of the finish repair stuff, I wanted to make sure that, you know, it plays good. And it does. So let's get started with the finish repairs. It's not going to take long now. I'm going to use Glue Boost and white bond poly and maybe a little shellac for the black color. I don't think I'll use any lacquer at all, but I might have to. I might have to spray some black. We'll see how it looks after I fill everything and sand it smooth. But right now it's really kind of bumpy still. Now I'm going to go around the finish and try to level everything off. It didn't line up perfectly. I mean, the strings lined up great. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm going to go around the whole thing, sand it, lay in a little bit of fill and finish and maybe some black paint. I'll use a file and then I'll use some sandpaper, 220 grit. I'm trying to use a little bit of shellac and a little bit of black pigment from that Mix-All bottle and a little bit of black ink just to go around the seam. Just go around that seam where I started to sand through. You can see the maple on the edges. Oh yeah, and then the the fingerboard was completely delaminated from the neck. So I'm going to fill that big old crack with some of this shellac. I'll do a little sanding with some 1500 wet sandpaper. And I went back and forth with this for a couple days, just trying to paint it in by hand and filling in all the voids with Glue Boost Fill and Finish and the Glue Dry Accelerator. And I wasn't really getting the look that I wanted. I would wipe on a little bit of naphtha to see how I was coming along. You can always wipe a little naphtha on the project to see what the end result's going to look like. And then I wipe a little poly on there to see if I'm going to get away with it all. And it wasn't looking great, so I tried this paint pen, which was a good color. But I think my lesson that I need to learn is I need to get the surfaces 100% perfectly smooth before applying the color. Because if you apply the color and then you apply some finish and fill over that, and then you sand it and you go through the color, it's just ridiculous. This ultra thin worked really good right here on this crack. I dropped a little in with the looper and then sprayed the accelerator. Fill and Finish Ultra Thin. Then I hit the entire area with the gray Scotch-Brite pad. Just want to scrub that whole neck. Make sure it has some tooth for the new finish to grab onto. I'll use my micro file again. And then a little 400 grit sandpaper on a foam block. This is Nashville. There's always a lot of fun things happening. Touch up, touch up, touch up. I'll try another wipe of the ultra thin with a Q-tip. That seemed to work pretty good. I decided to fasten the guitar into the proper guitar workstation because I can hold it on both ends and it frees up the entire neck for me to wipe on this poly. I don't like how bumpy this looks. I'm gonna put on about 5 coats of the Fill and Finish Ultra Thin. To accelerate or not to accelerate? That is the question. Got to get rid of these bumps. You got to make more bumps to get rid of bumps. So basically, I just want to lay down enough so that I can really aggressively level sand it. And I'm going to go at it with some 220, some 320, and some 400. I mean, this guitar came with a pretty thick finish on it, so. I kind of decided after this point that the black wasn't looking black enough around the heel. It was looking kind of gray. It was a little discolored. Okay, well, I didn't like what I was seeing after I got it all completely level and sanded and everything, and I started wiping on a few coats. I saw that it needed to have a black coat sprayed over it, especially right here and right around here. So I got it all taped off, grocery bag or garbage bag over it, and I'm going to use these two. I'm going to hit it with one coat of this flat, just a mist coat basically, and then this black coat, and then maybe I'll rip the tape off that edge and spray one more coat and bring it back up here. I've got the dehumidifier running in the garage, and I'm going to take it on down there and give it a spray. Okay, it's actually the next day. I left this out there overnight, and now we get to peel the tape. And I can continue wiping. But I do have a trade secret to share. Stretch wrap. It's quicker and easier than garbage bags. I use it all the way down the neck sometime when I need to just mask off the neck and spray a little part around the body. You know what I'm talking about. This goes on easier and it comes off easier than tape. It's actually safer than tape. You can get this at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's in the moving supply section. And that's my little secret. And I think I actually came up with that. The 8th and final coat right here. Want it to go on fairly wet. And I did these 8 coats over the course of 2 days. So I did 4 coats a day and then let it sit overnight. And then it's wet sand and polish time. Unlike lacquer that goes on with an orange peel, there's not a lot of wet sanding to do. I just take this Trizact pad, which has kind of a foam backer on it. I dip it in the water, get it wet, and then I use some Simple Green, just a couple drops, as a lubricant. As I go back and forth, you can hear it cutting. It's got a 3000 grit to it, and you can get it at the automotive supply. Actually, the rest of the products I'm going to use are all automotive Meguiar's. Ultra Cut Compound 105. This is the coarse stuff. It's about as coarse as I got. And the reason I do this by hand is because on these curved surfaces, you don't want any high-speed drills or arbors going next to it. You could catch an edge and you'd have to start over from scratch. I just use a regular bath towel to buff it off. And it's on to the, let's see, I use the Ultra Cut Compound. Then I go to the Ultimate Polish. Next. Get it super shiny. It's not perfectly, smooth. Like, if you look at any guitar, you'll see that none of them are perfectly smooth. They've all got a little shrinkage going on. Sometimes you can see a little washboard, like on a spruce top. Depending on what type of wood they put this finish over top of. You could have little, areas, like on a mahogany, where the pore hasn't been filled 100%. Sometimes you'll get a little pore. Little grain. Ultimate Compound. It's got the red car on the bottle. I worked my way through 3 different compounds. And buff it off in between. This is the fun part. The hard part is the sanding of the filler. Honestly thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was. This is the Ultimate Polish. It has a blue car on the bottle. I'll buff it off and then I'll do the Meguiar's Cleaner Wax. Yep, 4 different Meguiar's products. I guess I like Irish stuff. Here's the back that was, it polished up nice. No finish went on this back, but here's all the new finish right here on the neck. Completely refinished neck. There's a little witness line right here. There. That's the extent of the witness line, but after it gets a couple smudges on it, who the hell's gonna care? Yep. I made sure that I ended it, you know, right here along this curve so that you wouldn't see any witness lines, and I ended it right here along this joint, so it's all good. Looks brand new. Well, there it is, just getting ready to celebrate the return of Lucille. Oh yeah, guys, she's looking good again. She looks professional. Almost like she's never been hurt. Yeah, I've been working on it so long I had time to grow a beard. No, really, it's been like 4 weeks working on this thing. But we got her done. And play little BB licks, and I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I hope to see you soon. Have a good weekend. We'll catch you later.